And what I did was I went down to my office and I picked up one of these flight charts that all pilots use. This is a high-altitude flight chart, and I looked up the route of flight that these planes out of Boston would be flying to Los Angeles, and it's actually further off course than we were originally speaking, because the route of flight should have taken both of those aircraft out of Boston up over southern New Hampshire, up over southern Vermont, then over Syracuse, New York, Buffalo, and then out over Michigan before turning a little more southwestward to go to Los Angeles. So, which leads speculation to a couple of things. One, you could say then that this hijacking occurred probably right after takeoff, because as we were also talking earlier, when the way these aircraft are programmed to fly, the flight crews put in that assigned flight plan prior to leaving the gate, and once they take off from their departure airport, they usually hit the computer button at about 1,000 feet, and the autopilot really flies it the rest of the way.
So would the control tower know immediately that the plane was not on target?
Yes, because the first clearance would have been for these airplanes to fly to Manchester, New Hampshire. That's what's called their first fix, or their first navigational point that they should cross over. And Manchester, New Hampshire is the opposite direction to New York City. So from that standpoint, that leads me to believe that the hijacking occurred immediately after takeoff.
And would anybody in the flight control tower have to do anything, any kind of emergency, if they realize that somebody is not going on the path that they're supposed to be going?
Absolutely.
Would they have to sound any kind of emergency
Well, they would first try to contact the aircraft. They would call the particular flight and say, you're supposed to be going to Manchester, New Hampshire. Why are you not proceeding that way? And then the flight crew could be indeed responding, we've been hijacked. Or, you know, maybe they weren't unable to respond.
How fast would they be going at that point?
Well, they'd be in their climb speed, so they'd probably be doing about 250 miles an hour, 250 to 300 miles an hour.
Okay, so but we're talking about minutes here that they're actually being aware of. There's a difference in the flight path.
Oh,
right?
yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
It's not like they had a half an hour to figure out that a plane was
Oh,
off.
they probably figured it out pretty quickly. Now, the question we're going to have to find out here, or the answer to this question would be, what did air traffic control know? I mean, did the flight crew say, we are being hijacked? And where are they being hijacked to? New York? Did the hijackers actually say, take us to Kennedy Airport in New York, or take us to Newark? To get them in the general New York City area. But this, again, leads me to believe that immediately after takeoff, something happened. And how much, and again, to be able to fly from Boston to New York, remember, that's about a 35-minute flight.
Yes.
Okay, and these planes don't just navigate there by themselves.
I mean, I'm sure the FBI has already listened to that flight recording
over and over and over again, and I'm sure they're interviewing all the controllers and other pilots that were in the air at that same time.
More details will be coming out certainly in the next day or so. Nick, thank you very much. Dick Oliver was the first to report about this horrendous tragedy this morning, and we'd like to share with you right now the videotape of what it was like for Dick reporting this morning.
Hey, can I get you autograph also?
What the hell was that?
It sounded like a plane crash.
Okay, what was happening right here was the camera was at rest on the street. That's why you were watching that person's, the photographer, I'm assuming, his sneaker there, and you heard the explosion.
Come to us. Hey, Beth, what is that? Somebody hit the World Trade Center or the...
It's a Trade Center.
The World Trade
Center.
Center. There's a fire on the upper floors.
It was just an explosion.
It looks like something crashed into it.
Hey, joining us on the phone right now is Dick Oliver. He's at NYU. Dick?
Hey, Harry. We're at NYU downtown hospital. I just spoke to Dr. Bruce Logan, who's chief of medicine here at the hospital, and he just visited the disaster scene. He calls it a tragedy of huge proportions, an unbelievable tragedy. But anyway, I wanted to find out why they were not bringing any ambulances with injured and dead out of that scene. He responded by saying, there is so much fire and smoke, rescuers can't get in. It's too dangerous. He expects there will be a point, we're in a lull now, there will be a point when they will be bringing out hopefully injured, but fearfully an awful lot of bodies out of that scene. Dr. Logan says if there are people still alive, we'll treat them. He was here for the World Trade Center bombing of 1993, and he said there's no comparison. The magnitude is incredible. On this one, the building was still standing in 93. We have nothing left now. So we are standing by here at NYU Downtown Hospital, which is the only emergency room in the area. They are treating police officers and firefighters, as well as people who were hit by debris and those who are suffering from the effects of ash and soot from the debris. Harry?
Well, certainly, Dick, what the doctor told you is substantiated by some of the reports that we are getting. World Trade Center 7 being on fire and also still in danger of collapsing right now, so they can't get in to get the injured, and they can't get in to help them and treat them right now because of all the fire.
All right, Harry, we'll continue to update you from the hospital here.
All right, Dick Oliver, thank you very much. We appreciate your work and your report for us this afternoon.
It almost seems the rescue crews are working with one hand tied behind their back. You know, they want to get in there and help, and yet they can't get in there and help because they don't know if another building is going to come down. I mean, and we don't know if any of those firefighters and policemen got up into World Trade Tower 1 or 2 to help those injured people, you know, before the collapse.
And unfortunately, when the first plane went into the World Trade Center, they responded immediately, and they were there on the scene trying to help people right away. And you can only imagine what it must have been like for them as this tragedy unfolds and more debris is just raining down as they're trying to help people.
And you have to wonder, you hear about Trade number 7 in trouble right now. And then what does that lead to? I mean, it almost becomes, you know, a set of dominoes.
Sure.
Let's hope it ends with that and it doesn't go any further. Now, we know we're working on Mario Busquez, who's down in Lower Manhattan right now. Do we have Mario yet? No. Okay. Mario is working the scene right now, trying to figure out what's going on.
Let's take a real, we're not going to take a break here, but just all three of us are parents, and I'm just interested, I don't want to drum this home too much, but I'm interested to hear, what do you tell your kids? How do you have conversations with them about this kind of tragedy? How do you answer the inevitable questions? Now, you have a 4-year-old and a
2-year-old, yeah, and it was when I was watching the coverage from home this morning, I actually had the 2-year-old in my arms, and all she kept saying as she would see the video over and over again was, "Wow, Daddy." Wow, and what do you tell the 2-year-old?
Yeah.
And you know, a 2-year-old, of course, you know, she won't remember this until she sees it in of course, video that'll be played over and over for the rest of her life. But the question is more for the 4- and the 5-year-olds, because that's a transition age.
That's
you know, what do you tell them?
You know, I guess you have to be honest in these kind of circumstances. And now with the schools being closed possibly for a day or so, especially here in Manhattan, you really have to sit down and talk with your kids. My kids go to school in Manhattan. Some of the kids, their parents work in the World Trade Center. The teachers took the kids out of the class and brought them down to church, prayed with them a little bit, explained to them what was going on. And basically, they then started calling some of the parents. If you want, you can pick up your kids earlier. My husband picked up the kids. He's home talking with them. From our apartment, you can look out the window and you see the World Trade Center, or what was the World Trade Center.
The interesting thing, though, is I think there was also a bit of a delayed reaction, and that's certainly not unique to children. I think it's going to also happen with a lot of us adults as well. I went to pick up our daughter today, early on when this actually happened, and talked to her. She said, I'm fine, there's not a problem. But as more and more details came out and more things happened, she finally said, you know what, I think I do want to come home. I think I want to kind of touch base with my reality and make sure my house is still there and everything else.
I think they're going to be scared, and we have to reassure them that everything's going to be okay. Right now, we're going to go back to Mario Busquez, who's in Lower Manhattan. Mario.
Hello, Rosanna. I am using a cell phone, as you can see, only because of the constant communications problems that we're having, but we're still getting this report to you live just outside Pace University, where we have just learned that it's being used as a triage area for the people who are brought in from the World Trade Center disaster. You can also see paramedics, fire, police personnel. They are using this as a staging area as well. Now, when we went to Beekman Hospital to find out what the situation was with the incoming victims there, at last report, they've admitted approximately 300 people. That is a combination of civilians, victims, fire personnel, and EMS and police injuries as well. Now, the spokesperson said about 20% of the people who have been admitted do have severe major injuries that they have sustained, at least 3 reported to be dead on